You know, sometimes the coldest nights have a way of breaking you open, and you don't even see it coming until you're already changed. I never thought my life would shift because of a voice in the snow, but that's how it happened. Right there, in the kind of hush where the world feels paused, the park empty except for me, lost in my own memories, and two people I never planned on meeting. I'd been doing this walk every year, just me and the sound of my shoes on frozen ground, thinking it was a way to keep grief from swallowing me whole, not telling anyone, not my friends, not my board, not even myself if I'm honest, and it made sense to me. You know, until suddenly it didn't. So, picture this. Amber light pooling under street lamps, snow swirling lazy as smoke, the world soft and a little bit haunted. That night, I felt the quiet like a shroud. Except then I heard something, at first just a whisper, almost swallowed by the wind. But when I heard it again, sharper, it stopped me dead. In my tracks. Mommy, please don't die. And you know that thing when time seems to pinch in, where the only thing that matters is what you do next. That's what I felt, like the world holding its breath. I turned and saw her, a young woman sprawled in the snow, her skin nearly blue, and beside her a little girl, maybe 5, barefoot, shaking, staring up at me with the kind of trust you don't earn, you're just given. She looked right through me, straight to my core, and said, "You're rich, right? Please help my mom." Not a question, just a demand carved out of pure need. Let me tell you, I've written checks big enough to build skyscrapers, but I'd never done anything like this. Never used what I had to pull someone out of the cold. Not really. I knelt down, wrapped my coat around her, asked her name. Mia, and for a second, I realized I was on the edge of something I couldn't walk away from. Not anymore. I called 911, my hands steady out of old habit, but my chest was chaos. That's what you don't see about people like me, the ones with power, with all the resources in the world. It doesn't mean a thing if you don't actually show up when it counts. The paramedics came. I stayed with Mia, didn't let her out of my sight. In the ambulance, she sat so small in my coat, just watching her mom, who still hadn't moved. I felt the heat and the noise, the smell of antiseptic. But all I could focus on was this kid who decided I was her lifeline. She put her hand on her mom's. Common away kids shouldn't have to be, and I knew, right there, that I couldn't let go. At the hospital, when the nurse asked about insurance, Mia said, "We don't have a house either." Like she was telling me the weather. It hit me harder than I expected. The nurse started to move on, clipboard ready, and before I could think myself out of it, I told her to put everything under my name. I signed the forms. Didn't even care how much it cost. It wasn't about money anymore. Mia didn't let go of my hand. Not in the waiting room. Not when her mother was taken for tests. Not even when they said she'd need to be placed in foster care. That's when she looked at me, eyes locked, and said, "If you leave, we won't have anyone ever again." I didn't have the heart to tell her I wasn't family, so I decided, right then, to become the person she needed. I petitioned for guardianship, jumped through every legal hoop they threw at me, filled out paperwork I didn't even know existed, and each signature felt like burning the bridge behind me. No way back. You know what's wild? How fast a life can change. The apartment I moved them into was sleek, spotless, everything money could buy. But it felt empty until Mia taped a crayon drawing to the fridge, until we shared pasta at the dining table, until I realized the scent of chamomile tea was warmer than all the fine leather and chrome. I brought her to see her mom every night, watched as the color came back to Lydia's face, saw how gratitude and disbelief danced in her eyes when she asked, "Why are you doing this?" All I could say was, "Because someone has to," but inside I knew it was more than that, because I needed to. It wasn't easy. Not when Lydia's health took a turn, and I found myself standing in hospital corridors, feeling helpless for the first time in years. Money and power meaning nothing when you're waiting on test results. But I stayed. I kept showing up. Even missed a high-profile investor lunch just so I could help Mia build a cardboard castle out of moving boxes, complete with a working drawbridge. She laughed every time it fell open. And that sound, I swear, it patched something in me I thought was gone for good. Twist is, Just as we were settling into some kind of rhythm, child services showed up. A distant relative wanted custody, claiming she could give Mia a stable home. But Angela, the social worker, pulled me aside and admitted she had doubts. Red flags all over this woman's record. Still, legally, it had to go to court. Suddenly I was scrambling, pulling together evidence, calling in favors, asking the hospital staff to vouch for us. Claire, my attorney, made sure every detail was airtight at the hearing. Lydia spoke with a quiet strength that stunned even me, telling the judge what it means to fight for safety every day. I testified too, said that family isn't about blood, it's about who shows up. Even the social worker vouched for us, said Mia was safest right where she was. When the judge ruled in our favor, naming me legal stepfather, Lydia's relief was like sunlight after a long, brutal winter. Mia burst out of her seat, hugged her mom, then me, and I finally felt the world tilt back towards something like hope. Spring rolled in, and with it, our wedding, small and honest, just a handful of people who'd been there when it counted. A nurse who once braided Mia's hair, the doorman who saved markers at the front desk, Angela without her clipboard, Claire in a dress, even the judge in plain clothes. Mia was flower girl, scattering petals, with the same seriousness she used to ask for help that night. Lydia's smile, after everything, was real, her freckles awake in the light. We said our vows under the trees, me promising to keep the door open, the table warm, and to be the father Mia already saw. Lydia promised to stay, to do the quiet work, to keep our home a place where fear has to knock before it enters. Rings exchanged, laughter ringing out. Mia squeezing us both in a hug so fierce it nearly knocked me over. It was perfect. In its imperfection, a picnic reception, lemonade, cake cracked in the middle, music that felt remembered, not curated. But here's the part that still gives me chills. I stood up, glass in hand, and announced the Haven Fund, so the next mother and child wouldn't have to fight alone. It wasn't just about us anymore. It was about paying forward what had been given, making sure kindness wasn't a fluke, but a habit. As the sun set, we walked the path where it all started, lamp posts glowing, petals on the stones. Mia slipped her hand in mine and said, "We found you in the snow. Now you're ours, and man, if that doesn't undo you, nothing will." We stood there, not as a headline or miracle, but as a family, ready to face whatever storm came next. Together tomorrow there'll be work, budgets, paperwork. But tonight, there's just us, a home filled with laughter, and a little girl who insists cake tastes like sunshine. And if you made it this far, I want you to ask yourself, what would you have done? What does family mean to you? Tell me below, because these stories only matter if we share them, if we argue, if we hope together, and maybe, just maybe, you'll find yourself ready to show up for someone, too.